So he who is competent and enlightened will soon emerge victorious from his emotional battle. That's the indication here. This is the indication from Sanjay, because Sanjay is also not ordinary. We did this in the first chapter. Who is Sanjay? He is the disciple of Vyasadeva. Sanjay is saying that although he is appearing to be very confused, very bewildered, but very soon, because he is Parantapa, chastiser of enemies, and because he is Gudakesha, conqueror of ignorance and conqueror of sleep, temporarily he has been put into delusion, into confusion, into indecision, but soon he will emerge victorious. Now, Dhritarashtra must have become very happy to hear this. But Sanjay is destroying his happiness very quickly, saying that he knows, he understands the heart of Dhritarashtra. He knows that Dhritarashtra is very happy, because in the previous verse only, Arjun is saying that I would prefer to beg, but I don't want to fight. I want to leave the battlefield. And this is giving pleasure. This is music to the ears of Dhritarashtra. And definitely he's very happy to hear this, especially now when he hears that he has put down his Gandhi and he's already decided and declared, I'm not going to fight. So he's very happy, Dhritarashtra. But Sanjay, by calling him Parantapaha and by calling him Gudakesha, he's again giving an indirect message to Dhritarashtra that do not underestimate. This Arjun is not an ordinary Arjun. So Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjun was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. But Sanjay has disappointed him again. Although Arjun was for the time being overwhelmed with false grief, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This is his intelligence, which we did in the last verse, in the 8th verse last week, that who is intelligent? When you don't know what to do, and what you do when you don't know what to do makes you intelligent. Remember, we did this? What is intelligence?
Surrender to Krishna as the
To seek guidance from a guru.
Yes, when you are confused in life and you don't know what to do, at that time you take spiritual guidance instead of materialistic guidance or body related guidance. That is intelligence. So those who turn to God through the Shastra in the form of Guru are intelligent. And although in the middle of a battlefield, Arjun is in a very, very dangerous situation, but because he's intelligent, he did the right thing, which is take shelter. First, he showed his brilliance when he went to Krishna to ask for help. And then Krishna gave him the choice that choose between Narayani Seva, my Narayani Seva, and me. That's when he showed his first intelligence, by choosing Krishna. He said, I don't want your Narayani Seva. And this Narayani Seva Sena is not an ordinary Sena. Krishna had an army from the spiritual world. So he did not have an ordinary army. All his chariots, weapons, soldiers were coming from Swarglok. So such a Narayani Seva, which was Sena, which was undefeatable in the 3 worlds, he rejected. He said, I just want you, even if you're not going to fight. And that decision is helping him now, because he has nowhere else to go and he has only Krishna to look up to now, and he has surrendered himself to Krishna as a disciple. So this indicated that he would soon be free from false lamentation. Why is the lamentation coming? Again, we can all identify with Arjun in this. Why do we get problems in our life or confusions in our life or very big dilemmas in our life? Because of family affection, our ties to our loved ones, to our possessions, to all the things that we have in our life. So, resulting from family affection, and he would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self-realization or Krishna consciousness, and then he would surely fight. So Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated since Arjun would be enlightened by Krishna, and he would fight to the end. So, 10th verse, can I request Monica Virmani?
Yes.
Yeah.
तमुवाच हृषीकेशा प्रसन्न इव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्त idam vachah. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna.
Okay. So in the previous verse, 2.9, Arjun has not asked for any advice from Krishna. He has only stated, I shall not fight. So since he didn't ask for any advice, Krishna didn't give any advice either. Krishna is very smart. He's smarter than us. He has given us all free will, and he does not come forward until and unless by our own free will we take a step towards him. He will keep us in illusion. So to all those people who have this constant question, why doesn't God appear? Why doesn't he just show us what is right and what is wrong? Why doesn't he just come and tell us what to do, what not to do? Why has he even created problems? Why has he even created evil? This verse is the answer to that, to all those questions. Krishna has given us free will, and we are using that free will. It's not that we are very bhola bhala and innocent and we do not use that free will and we just do what is written in the scriptures. We use that free will for each and every desire, for each and every decision in our life, for each and everything. We use that free will. But we will not use that free will to approach God, to approach a guru, to understand God. We will not use that free will for our spiritual advancement. We will only use it for our bodily needs and desires. So until that time, Krishna also waits for us to take that step towards him. But the moment you surrender to him, he comes 1,000 steps ahead to show us the way. But the first step he wants us to take, and he wants us to take it willingly, without any duress or without any compulsion. That's why this free will has been given to us. And as human beings, it's our duty to use that free will or inquire why we have been given this free will. Have we been given this free will just to do what we like here, to live as we please, or to find our way back home, back to Godhead? So, the talk is going on between intimate friends. Who are the intimate friends? Rishikesh and Gorakesh. As friends, both of them are on the same level as friends. But the moment Arjun takes the position of a disciple, one of them voluntarily becomes a student of the other. So Krishna starts smiling. The word that is used here, Vishidante. Krishna Prahasam. Prahasaniva. Prahasaniva. Prahasaniva means he is smiling. So this is a bit of a contradiction. That ek taraf to look at Arjun's condition. He has sat down and he's saying, I'm not going to fight Krishna. And he's crying. He's in a pathetic situation. And here, as soon as he surrenders to Krishna, Krishna is smiling. He's looking at him and Prahasaniva Bharata. He's smiling. Now let's understand what is the mystery behind that smile. As Lord of everyone, Krishna is always in the superior position. as the master of everyone. And yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. We did the 5 rasas, the 5 relationships that one can have with the Supreme Lord. So Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become his disciple. So he was waiting until he was speaking and giving him all the great logics of the world. He's quoting all kinds of Shastra to Krishna, telling him, about this Shastra and that Shastra and this rule and that rule. Krishna is quietly listening. He is the knower of the Vedas. Vedanta Vit Ved Krit. He is the compiler of the Vedas, and he's just quietly listening to him. But the moment he gets confused in his own logic and he surrenders, then he starts smiling. Okay, beta, now you have come to me. Now let me explain to you the flaws in your understanding or in your interpretation of the Vedas. So when he was accepted as the master, so the moment Arjun accepts him as a master, he at once assumes the role. And he talked with the disciple like a master with gravity. So he does smile. In the beginning, he smiles, but gradually he becomes grave, serious. Because it's time now to give him advice. As now, he is no longer his friend. Now he's talking to him as his spiritual guide, as his guru. So naturally, he is grave, it's required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged. Well, they were not in a cubicle, in a closed room somewhere, hiding behind some bushes and hush, talking to each other. I don't want to fight. Out, open, in the battlefield. And both sides could hear. So, the talks of the Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community. That is why they have been spoken openly on the battlefield. And this battlefield is not an ordinary battlefield, it's a world war. So practically every king of the world is present there. So practically the whole world can hear it. Half are on Kaurav's side, half are on Pandav's side, but every king was given the option to choose one side. Nobody could remain neutral. They had to join a side. So all of them were assembled there. So this Bhagavad Gita is being spoken to the whole world. It does not belong to any person, society, or community. But they are for all. And friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. What do they mean by friends and enemies? Kauravas are anti-God. They do not consider Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, they are equally entitled to hear this. And so are the Pandavas, who are devotees, who accept Krishna to be God himself. So this is actually a very important verse even to show us that it's not about Hinduism or it belongs to just us, Hindu. Many of us become so possessive about their Gita that when somebody else tries to read it, that's what happened when ISKCON was established. The local Hindus of Vrindavan decided that Krishna is theirs. And who are these foreigners who are coming here and chanting Krishna's names and trying to build a temple? They thought they had copyright on Krishna. Krishna belongs to us only. We are Hindus. He's a Hindu god. That whole concept is being quashed here. Krishna belongs to human beings, living entities beyond human beings. Krishna belongs to everyone, but the Bhagavad Gita is for the human society. So it is above person, creed, caste, color, or country. It is universal. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It belongs to the whole world, to human society. Okay. So, YG, can you read verse 11 and 12 both?
Sure. Shri Bhagavan Asosan anvasosastvam prajnavadam sabhashase gatanshu agatam sumsta nanu shoshanti panditaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Natve evam
No,
jat.
so we'll come to that later. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thanks. No, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you that. So, yeah. Now the Lord at once took the position of a teacher. And what is his first job as a teacher? He chastises. Dant lagate hain Arjun ko. Indirectly, he's calling him a fool. Bevakoof. Mooda. He's telling him that you are speaking big words. And Arjuna spoke a lot of big words. Iti Shushruma. Initially he says, Iti Shushruma. What is that? I have heard from Shastra. I have heard from authority. Then he's saying, Narke Niyatam Vaso. You know, people who do this will go to hell. Narke Niyatam Vaso, they're going to have a vas in Narak. Paap me vashyam aham vashyam. Paap me vashyam. It will be sinful to do this. It will be sinful to do that. Shastra is saying it is sinful to do this. So, for all this, Krishna says in one word, बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें कर रहे हो, है ना? Quoting Shastra, telling me about Vedas, on the strength of Vedas, what is right and what is wrong, what is paap and what is punya, and now you are in this condition that you don't know what to do despite all that knowledge. So he's saying you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition. My dear friend, all your philosophy has been applied to the body. That philosophy was meant for the soul, but you applied it to your bodily connections, to your body and everything linked to your body, which is the reason for your dilemma, for your confusion. Because one who knows the difference between body and soul, he does not lament. As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. This is real knowledge. The difference between the soul and the body. And who is controlling both? Now, Arjun argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that the knowledge of matter, soul, and supreme is even more important than religious formularies. So most of the times, or all the times, we always get caught up in rules and regulations. Punya, paap, dan, dharam, pratishtha. We get so caught up in all these rituals that we forget the purpose behind the rituals. We forget why the rituals have been given to us in the first place, or what should be the result. What kind of a result should you be expecting from following these scriptures? So rituals, karma kand, ye sab follow to karne hain, but they have to be followed to make your soul detached. But we are using them to attach our soul more and more to our bodily functions, to whatever we possess, and how we can maintain our possession over them. We have started using these rituals or this knowledge and understanding for that purpose. So we are completely misusing. For example, astrology. There was a deep science behind why astrology was introduced in the Vedas. Astrology was also meant so that you could develop your spiritual growth. your devotion, your bhakti yoga as a devotee. So according to the alignment of the planets, according to the alignment of the stars, you followed the rules and regulations so that you could become a better and better disciple year by year. The way we are following Chaturmas now, we are following Purushottam Mas now, we follow Kartik Mas, we follow Ekadashis. If we forget why we are following them, very easily we will fall into this rut, which 99% of the Hindu society today is following. ये वाला व्रत करना जरूरी है, मंगलवार को ये खाना है, मंडे को ये करना है, वेडनेसडे को ये करना है. उनसे पूछो ये सारी चीजें करने का गोल क्या है? गोल क्या है? बस बच्चे ठीक रहे, जॉब चलता रहे, हमारी रिटायर स्वस्थ रहे, सबका सब कुछ ठीक ठाक रहे, हमारे पास जो है वो बना रहे, छिन न जाए. दिस इज देयर गोल. लेकिन ये चीजें क्यों बनी हुई थी? टू डेवलप योर सोल. आपका जो सोल कॉन्शियसनेस है वो इतना स्ट्रांग हो कि आप ये क्वेश्चंस पूछना शुरू कर दें कि मेरे परमानेंट फादर कौन है? ये तो मेरे टेम्पररी रिलेशंस हैं, but do I have a permanent father or mother also? And what's going to happen to me after I die? Where do I go? Where have I come from? Why am I here? Am I supposed to be doing something else here? ये सारी चीजें इन क्वेश्चंस के लिए बनी हुई थी, बट इनको ना यूज करके या इनको ना ढूंढ करके we started utilizing all of it for our enjoyment, sense gratification. It's nothing but lust. This is enjoyment. I want to enjoy. So that is the difference between Karma Kand and Bhakti Yoga. Big difference. Outwardly, we may appear to be doing the same thing. अरे हम भी एकादशी का व्रत रखते हैं, पुरुषोत्तम मास में हम भी, हमारी दादी ये किया करती थी, हम वो किया करते थे. But do you understand the goal behind why they were doing it? Are you following that same goal? That's the difference. Consciousness is the difference. Because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation regardless of the condition of the material body. So, real education का क्या मतलब है? अगर आप really इतने वेदों के ज्ञाता हैं, जैसे अर्जुन बोल रहा है, तो आपके अंदर ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आनी चाहिए थी. ये बैटलफील्ड देखकर और अपने फादर, ग्रैंडफादर और रिलेटिव्स को देखकर, you should have become confident. If you were really that knowledgeable in the Vedas, it shouldn't have made you like jelly, you know, that you are standing there and wailing like a baby. If you were really learned. So your words and big, but they are not helping you decide. So your knowledge is just skin deep. ऊपर ऊपर की knowledge है ये. कोई भी ये knowledge ले सकता है. वेदा बेस में आज ISKCON ने तो it has translated all the important Vedas of the world available right now to humanity and has put it on a website known as vedabase.com. Anybody can go there, type a few lines and pull out thousands and thousands of shlokas and quote them as and when. But the question is, have you understood that knowledge? Have you internalized it? And are you able to apply that knowledge? We are not here just to show that we understand all these shlokas and we can translate it and tell you the meaning. Do you know their practical application? And are they bringing a transformation in your life? Are they helping you when you are at the crossroads in your life and you have to make important decisions? Is this knowledge of the Vedas translating at that time to help you? That is real knowledge. And for that, what do you need? You need a guru. You need a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master who can translate, decode these shlokas. So we'll do the last verse for today. Yeah, Vaiji.
Natve vaham jatu nasham natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamata param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
So this verse is so important. इतना कुछ इस वर्स पे छुपा हुआ है. अगर आप एक ये वर्स समझ लेते हो, you would have understood the entire essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Let us read the purport nicely for this verse. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations, according to individual work and reaction of work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also by his plenary portions alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. In short, it means the soul is eternal. The soul never dies. Right now, all these people who are standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra have not just been born in this life. They were alive in some other bodies in the past. Currently, they are wearing these current bodies and kings. In future also, they will remain. Even after I kill them all on this battlefield, these kings or these souls that are on the battlefield right now are not going to die. In future, they will still be there. Similarly, Krishna says, I was always there in the past. Right now, I'm Krishna standing in front of you. In future also, I will remain Krishna standing in front of you. Now, the Mayavadis completely misinterpret this verse. 99% of the Bhagavad Gita's in the market. If you see the translation of this verse, chapter 2, verse 12, you will see all kinds of nonsense translated in this verse. Krishna is saying, in the past I was Krishna, in the present I am Krishna, in the future also I will be Krishna. In the past, he is telling Arjun, you existed, currently also you are existing, and in the future also you will exist. Not once is Krishna saying that in the past, in this verse, Krishna immediately defeats the Mayavad concept of oneness of the Supreme and the living entities. He does not say that in the future, Arjun and the kings will all become one. They will all mix into Krishna or merge into Krishna. Nor does Krishna say that he was formless. He was shapeless, formless in the past. And only in this birth, he has assumed a form, that of Krishna. And in the future, again, he will become shapeless and formless, and he will just merge into some Brahma Jyoti or light or energy. He's not saying this. He will again become formless. Rather, he is very clearly saying, I was Krishna, I am Krishna, I will always remain Krishna. So, similarly, Krishna is ascertaining that Arjun's eternal individuality. It is not that Arjun or all these kings who are on the battlefield right now were merged into Krishna previously, in the previous birth. Right now, they are all separate, standing on the battlefield. After they are killed, they will all merge into Krishna and his body again. That's not what he's saying. He is saying at all times they were separate, I was separate in the past. Currently also they are individual, they are separately standing there, I am here. In future also they will remain like this. And how do the Mayavadis translate this verse? They say plurality. He is only talking about the conventional system, the bodily concept. This is what Krishna is saying. They say that he's only referring to the body. If that was the case, as the Mayavadis say, then in the just the previous verse, 11th verse of second chapter, why would he say that a bodily conception of mind? Just now he just criticized Arjun, no, in the previous verse, you are mudha, you are a fool, you're talking about the body all the time. इतने बड़े बड़े तुम वेदों की बात करते हो, verses quote करते हो, and you're still working only on the bodily level. So after immediately rejecting the bodily level, why will he in the next verse only again talk on the bodily concept of life only? That in the past you were not there. Whenever the Mayavadis are asked about this, to all those gurus and spiritual organizations who say that Bhagwan is formless, Nirakar, he is nothing, he is just a void or a light. When we ask them why Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any one of us cease to be. Why is he saying this? अगर आप सब मर्ज हो जाएंगे, एक दूसरे के अंदर मिक्स हो जाएंगे, ब्रह्म ज्योति हो जाएगी, they can't answer that question. Their only logic is he's saying this on the bodily level, which is completely false. He's not saying it on the bodily level, because in the previous verse only he rejected the bodily conception of life. So on the contrary, Krishna is clearly stressing on spiritual individuality. We are all individual spirit souls. On the spiritual level, we will remain separate from him. We are a part of him, yes. हम उनके अंश हैं. We are a part of Krishna, but we don't dissolve into Krishna. We remain our independent and we have our free will. Krishna has given each one of us minute free will. And our future and our karma completely depends on how we use that free will. To all those people who ask these questions कि अगर सारा कुछ कृष्ण ने ही किया, सारा कुछ वही संभाल रहा है, तो फिर हमारी जो हमने बुरे कर्म किए या जो भी हमसे बुराई हुई, वो भी तो उसी ने की ना. मिर्जा गालिब का एक मुझे शेर याद आ रहा है, कहते हैं कि पत्ता भी तेरी रजा से हिलता है. He's written this, और बड़ी वाहवाह होती है. कहते हैं कि पत्ता भी तेरी रजा से हिलता है, फिर भी कहते हो कि बंदा गुनहगार है. So he's in a way trying to justify कि अगर पत्ता भी भगवान की मर्जी से हिलता है, तो फिर मैं गुनहगार क्यों हूं? जो भी मैं कर रहा हूं उसी की मर्जी से कर रहा हूं. And then they absolve themselves of all responsible behavior. कि ये भी अगर मैंने कुछ बुरा भी किया, ये भी उसी की मर्जी से है, ऊपर वाले की करामात है कि उसने मुझसे ये करवाया, ये बुलवाया. No, this verse is answering that question. Never in the past were you never was there a time when you did not exist. You were always independent in the past. Currently also you are independent, and in the future also you will always be independent. But how you use that independence will decide your pap or punya, and you will get punishment if you misuse your independence. So you cannot free yourself from the responsibility of using your individuality responsibly. You cannot blame it on him or on anyone just by saying that God is one. हम तो सब ultimately death के बाद तो हमने उसमें मिल ही जाना है. How does it matter? You can do whatever you want. हम उसमें मिल ही तो जाएंगे बाद में जाके. There is a big flaw in that philosophy. This is called Mayavad philosophy, and it is creating havoc in the society. And all organizations talk about this Mayavad philosophy only. They refuse to acknowledge that God is a person. He has a personality. And similarly, I am a person and I have a personality which is eternal. That's why what you do in this life, that consciousness, that impression carries on to the next life, because you are a person. So if you have led a very sinful life, for sure in the next life, because of all those impressions that you have gathered by conducting a sinful life, you will continue to do those in the next life. Therefore, this world has been created to reform us. This is a prison. And people have told us that this is an enjoyment. This is a place of enjoyment. We have actually come here to enjoy. But the Shastra says this is a prison. हम यहाँ पे reformation के लिए आए हैं. हम यहाँ पर सुधरने आए हैं. पास्ट इंप्रेशंस, जो हमने पास्ट गलतियां की हैं, उन गलतियों को माइंडफुली समझ के, एक्नॉलेज करके, उनको सुधार कर आगे हम बेटर डेस्टिनेशन पे जाने के लिए आए हैं. That is the purpose why this world has been created. So yes, there will be suffering here because we are all living out our own karmic reactions. Nobody is responsible for our dukh. God is not responsible. Only we are responsible. We are eating the soup we have cooked. We cooked it in the last life and we are eating it now. We have no one to blame. This is the meaning of this whole verse. So he's saying this verse, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman Tam Atmastham Ye Anupashyanti Dhiras Tesham Shanti Shashvati Netaresham. The same Vedic truth given to Arjun is given to all the people in the world who pose themselves as very learned. So सबके साथ ये विद्या बांटी गई है. इसीलिए भगवत गीता ओपन में बोली गई है, खुले में बोली गई है. There is no Brahman who can claim कि मेरे से ही आकर ये भगवत गीता आपको समझनी है या आपको लेनी पड़ेगी. Krishna declared it openly. This knowledge is given to all of you free of cost. Factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. But people have such a poor fund of knowledge कि इसको भी वो secular ना करते हुए sectarian बना देते हैं. No, this belongs only to Hindus. This does not apply. This is our favorite retort. पिंडदान, श्राद्ध, ये सारी चीजें करने की क्या जरूरत है? अमेरिका में कोई फॉलो करता है? वो तो कुछ भी नहीं करते, फिर भी उनकी दुनिया चल रही है. That is such a nonsense example. उनकी दुनिया चल रही है. Do you know the divorce rate there? Do you know the child depression rate there? Are they getting a better life? This is our favorite retort कि ये हम ही लोग मानते हैं, हमारे ही लोगों के लिए बना हुआ है. वहां देखो, वहां तो कोई भी नहीं मानता. This means that this is not meant for the whole world. It's wrong. Everybody is suffering. Those who are not following the tenets of religion, those who are not following the rules and regulations of the scriptures are suffering. You cannot say that these countries are happy. It's open and clear for all of you to see today. So, the Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjun, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings. And that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living beings, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. So, God is eternally maintaining us. हम जेल में हैं तब भी वो हमारा ख्याल रख रहे हैं, और हम उनके spiritual kingdom में हैं तब भी वो हमारा ख्याल रख रहे हैं. But in both conditions, he is taking care of us. He is our maintainer. Whatever we are getting today is because of his mercy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjun, the Lord's eternal associate. Again, he is saying, Arjun पहली बार नहीं मिल रहे कृष्ण से, और पहली बार नहीं उनके साथ दोस्ती का relationship enjoy कर रहे हैं. Birth after birth, he has the same eternal relationship with Krishna because he is eternal, and so is Krishna. And all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. ये जितने भी लोग कुरुक्षेत्र के मैदान में इस वक्त हैं, ये इस वक्त they have in their heart enmity for Krishna. But in the past, there were times when they were favorable towards Krishna also. But then because of committing offenses and because of sinful lives, slowly, they became the enemies of God. And in future also, depending on what they do in this life, they will continue to have either a relationship of hate with God or that of love with God. But they will always remain. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past. And it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past and will continue to be in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation. So Krishna is saying, "Ye mar bhi jayenge, why are you lamenting? Body maregi sirf. They're going to get another body. They are eternal. Why are you crying so much? Is this what all your knowledge has taught you? You don't even know the basic difference between soul and body? That's why he was smiling first, and then he became serious. And now what is the Mayavadi theory? That after liberation, the individual soul will merge into the Brahman. And it will lose its individuality. Merge का क्या मतलब है? आपकी अपनी इंडिविजुअल फीलिंग खत्म हो जाती है. मतलब आपकी इंडिपेंडेंस खत्म हो जाती है जब आप किसी चीज में घुल मिल जाते हो. उसके बाद जिसके अंदर घुल गए उसी की मर्जी चलती है. That's absolutely not what Krishna is saying here. So will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence. It is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported here. ये भी गलत है कि केवल इस पृथ्वी पे हमें एक इंडिपेंडेंस और इंडिविजुअल आइडेंटिटी दी गई है, मरने के बाद हमसे वो आइडेंटिटी छीन ली जाती है क्योंकि उसके बाद तो हम घुल जाते हैं उसके अंदर जाके. ये भी नहीं कहा गया यहाँ पे. It has been refuted. Otherwise, why would he say in future also you will remain? He has very clearly said past में भी you were independent, future में भी independent रहोगे. अभी तो independent हो ही आप. So past, present and future, it's a very big statement by Krishna. Clearly Krishna says herein that in the future also individuality of he, Krishna himself, and the others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This is an eternal relationship. This statement is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. Agar if individuality were not a fact, Krishna would not have stressed so much, even in the future. मायावादीज जो हैं, कौन मायावादीज किनको कह रहे हैं? जो निराकारवादीज हैं, जो शून्यवादीज हैं, जो कहते हैं भगवान शून्य है, भगवान निराकार है, उनको मायावादी कहा जाता है. वो आर्ग्यू क्या करते हैं? That the individuality spoken of by Krishna, जब उनको पूछो, चैलेंज करो that your philosophy is wrong, how can you explain this statement? How do they explain this shloka? They say that in this verse, the individuality spoken by Krishna is not spiritual but material. And chapter 2 is only about the soul. So they actually have no argument at all. इसी वर्स में he meant material, पिछले वर्स में he is talking soul, future verses में he is talking soul, only this verse he will talk body and not soul. What kind of logic is that? Even accepting the argument that an individuality is material, how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? कृष्णा को भी वो बोलते हैं कि वो तो उन्होंने तो जन्म लिया ना, देवकी के गर्भ से आए, तो वो तो यही मतलब हमारे जैसे ही हुए ना, वो तो ह्यूमन बीइंग ही थे, उनके भी मदर फादर थे, यहाँ पे पैदा हुए, फिर मर भी गए, तो महापुरुष होंगे एट बेस्ट, वो भगवान कैसे हो सकते हैं? Now this verse answers them. Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways. And impersonal Brahman matlab Nirakar Mayavad, Nirakar, has been declared to be subordinate to Krishna. In the previous verses, he has explained कि मेरे 3 आकार हैं, Brahman, Nirakar, Paramatma and Bhagwan. So all the 3 forms belong to me. They are all my understanding. They are all my parts. So Brahman, Nirakar is a part of me, but not the complete me. जो मंद बुद्धि हैं या जो limited knowledge के हैं, poor fund of knowledge है, at best they can understand me only till Nirakarvad. But I'm more than that. I'm also Paramatma. और उससे भी आगे अगर आपकी intelligence होगी, you will also understand कि beyond Paramatma is Bhagwan. So these are the 3 different steps to understanding Krishna, and the final step is Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. Krishna tu hi Bhagwan hai. When I cannot understand you, as long as I'm studying in KG, I think I will understand you as Brahman, that you are just some Nirakar, you're just energy, mother nature, universe. Lekin as I progress to middle school and high school, I start understanding and realizing that you are Paramatma also. You are localized, you have a Paramatma, you are sitting, you have a body. And when I do my PhD, I understand that you are Bhagwan. Ultimately, आप भगवान भी हो. So जो भगवान फॉर्म को समझ जाता है वो परमात्मा फॉर्म को भी समझ जाता है और वो ब्रह्मन फॉर्म को भी समझ जाता है. लेकिन ब्रह्मन फॉर्म को समझने वाला परमात्मा और भगवान फॉर्म को कभी नहीं पाता और वो हमेशा इल्यूजन में रहता है और कंफ्यूजन में रहता है. So the Brahman form has been declared to be subordinate to Krishna. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then Bhagavad Gita has no value. जब वो भगवान है ही नहीं, आम आदमी की तरह पैदा हुए, तो उनकी भगवद गीता हम फिर क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं? If he is just an ordinary person. A common man with all the 4 defects is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with Bhagavad Gita. So when one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, then Gita loses. The mystery of Gita will not be revealed. पढ़ तो वो लेगा, सारे ही श्लोक पढ़ लेगा, all 700, लेकिन इसका जो गूढ़ रहस्य है वो गूढ़ ही रहेगा, वो रिवील ही नहीं होगा उसे. When the Mayavadis argue that the plurality मतलब I am separate, you are separate. This is plural. मैं भी हूं, आप भी हैं, और हम हमेशा ऐसे ही रहेंगे, separate और individual रहेंगे. But you will be the supreme and I will be subordinate to you. ये फर्क जरूर है. It doesn't mean that I am equal to you. Plurality never means I am equal to Krishna. It means I am a part of Krishna, I am subordinate to Krishna, and Krishna is the supreme. But I come from him, I am a part of him. But I never merge into him, I will always remain. And he will always remain. So, what do the Mayavadis say about this plurality? They say that it is referring to the body. And we've done this. In the previous verse, that bodily concept is condemned. So, after condemning bodily concept, how is it possible for Krishna again to place it on the body? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds. Spirit soul is individual. And Ramanujacharya ने गीता भाष्य लिखा है. गीता भाष्य अगर आप पढ़ें तो Ramanujacharya has very clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that the spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. केवल एक भक्त इस बात को समझ सकता है. But those who are envious of Krishna, द्वेष है जिनके मन में, या जिनके मन में lust है बहुत to enjoy this world without following its rules and regulations, they will have no bona fide access to the great literature. They will never be able to understand the Bhagavad Gita. The non-devotees' approach to the teachings of the Gita, this is the difference. They will always be licking the bottle of honey. लेकिन वो हनी के स्वाद को कभी चख नहीं पाएंगे. उसमें देख जरूर पाएंगे कि हाँ शीशी में भरा हुआ है, और शीशी को बाहर से लिक करते रहेंगे. बट हनी का ना उनको हेल्थ बेनिफिट मिलेगा, ना ही उसका टेस्ट बेनिफिट मिलेगा कभी. केवल एक डिवोटी ही उसको चख सकता है, because he will have the knowledge to open the cap of the bottle and drink the nectar of the honey inside. For that, you have to be free of envy. You have to be submissive, and you have to be favorable to Krishna. You cannot understand him by challenging him. He will not be revealed to you. He will simply remain a mystery. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can taste it. This will come in more detail in the 4th chapter. You will understand in more detail how practically this will happen. Now, nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of Gita is the most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has forbidden us to read commentations made by Mayavadis on the Bhagavad Gita, and he warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas. So I think we have explained enough and in detail the difference on what is Mayavad and what is Mayavad philosophy, and what is the real position of a soul, and what is the real position of Krishna, and what is our relationship with Krishna. And in the subsequent steps, you will understand how to develop that relationship further and be happy. The one who understands this, he can never be in stress and anxiety. His life will be more peaceful compared to all the other human beings of the society. So with that, I will open to any questions if you have. Otherwise, we will say our closing prayers. So, any questions? Who is MD? Any questions? I guess सभी को समझ में आ गया. Okay. Prachi, can I request you to say the closing prayers after me?
Yes, okay.
All right. Ekam Shastram,
Ekam Shastram,
Devaki Putra Geetam,
Devaki Putra Geetam,
Eko Devo,
Eko Devo,
Devaki Putra Eva,
Devaki Putra Eva,
Eko Mantras,
Eko Mantras,
Tasya Namani Yani,
Tasya Namani Yani,
Karmapi Ekam,
Karmapi Ekam,
Tasya Devasya Seva,
Tasya Devasya Seva,
Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva,
Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva,
Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva,
Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva,
Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva,
Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva,
Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva,
Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva,
Krishnaya Vasudevaya,
Krishnaya Vasudevaya,
Devaki Nandanaya Cha,
Devaki Nandanaya Cha,
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya,
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya,
Govindaya Namo Namaha,
Govindaya Namo Namaha,
Krishnaya Vasudevaya,
Krishnaya Vasudevaya,
Hare Paramatmane,
Haraye Paramatmane,
Pranata Kalesha Nashaya,
Pranata Kalesha Nashaya,
Govindaya Namo Namaha,
Govindaya Namaha,
Vasudevam Sutam Devam,
Vasudevam Sutam Devam,
Kamsa Chanura Mardanam,
Kamsa Chanura Mardanam,
Devaki Paramanandam,
Devaki Paramanandam,
Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum,
Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum,
Katyayani Mahamaye,
Katyayani Mahamaye,
Mahayogini Adhishwari,
Mahayogini Adhishwari,
Nanda Gopa Sutam Devi,
Nanda Gopam Sutam Devi,
Patim Me Kurute Namaha,
Chimme Kurute Namaha,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishnam Sharanam Mama,
Dasoham Krishna Tavasmi,
Dasoham Krishna Tavasmi,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You can repeat the Maha Mantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bol. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Radhe Shyam. So, everyone, please join the world holy name to make the world fortunate, to remove Mayavad from this world.